is just overcomplicating stuff too quickly or just adding too many things into a business.
Mhm.
Simplicity scales is kind of like the biggest thing. And most of the times it's very easy to, if something's not going 100% the way you want it to just change it and go do something else. But what happens is you lose all the compounding of that. Or it's very hard to remove things from a
Right.
business. Like if you can cut something out and your
Mhm.
business stays the same or grows, that's actually more impressive than adding something into the mix to try and get it to grow more. And I think what most founders or business owners get wrong is they try to add stuff in when in reality you should be looking to just take stuff away for
And
growth.
I've seen those red flags in a lot of my relationships, and sometimes I trust my gut on them, and sometimes a lot of times it depends on how hungry I am. Like, well, this is a red flag, but maybe I can put some parameters in place. But it doesn't
Yeah.
seem to matter if you're dealing with someone that you're not a good fit for. Like maybe you can't trust them for whatever reason. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what structure you put in; it's gonna fail at some point.
This is Waste to Wealth, a podcast about turning your waste hauling business into a profitable, scalable, cash flowing machine. And now, here's your host, Michael McCall.
Welcome to Waste to Wealth. I'm your host, Michael McCall, and we have a special guest with us here today, Cooper Simson, and we're going to be talking about how to be successful in the business world. Cooper comes to us with a large amount of experience that I'm excited to learn more about with you all, including running Martell Ventures portfolio for Dan Martell. He's also an athlete. He has some AI experience. And welcome, Cooper. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Excited to chat.
Yeah, me too. So we're in the same world a little bit, but I would say you're at a little more advanced level than I am. So I'm trying to, surround myself with successful people. I've had a little success, but it sounds like you've had a lot of success, from
Wow.
what I've gleaned. So you do portfolio management, you're involved
Mhm.
in AI, and I read that you are an Iron Man. Is that correct?
Yes. So yeah, I mean, don't really recommend it to anyone because it literally is like a full second time job. But yeah, I've done two events kind of for Ironman. I did one last year, and then I did one with kind of our whole team. We did a half Ironman this year, and then I've got one more scheduled for 2026, and that one I'm actually going to get like a full hardcore training block too. So yeah,
Wow.
just like to do fun things basically.
Well, that sounds fun to me. So I'm half of an Iron Man because I've done a few
Nice.
of those. Now, does it count as an Iron Man if you do it solo, like you don't do it with a race? You just do the distance? Does that still count?
I'd say that still counts. Honestly, it might even be harder because if you don't have the aid stations, like that's half the ease of it is at least you know that aid stations are coming. So if you're doing it self-supported, then it's almost like an extra tip in the cab just to be like,
Ah,
okay, just did it, went out there, rocked it. So yeah, 100%.
I might give that a try. Although I don't want to know what my time would be because it wouldn't nowhere near as good. So, well, congrats on becoming an Iron Man. So you've done
Thank
two
you.
of them. You're gonna do a third one. That is a lot of training. It is like another job.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's always fun, especially my girlfriend loves it on Saturdays when I'm up at 4 a.m., get back around 11 a.m. noon, and I'm basically brain dead for the rest of the weekend. So those are also fun days, but it's uh it's challenging but very rewarding. Like there's no better feeling than when you finish it. And I think it's the same thing with like business as well. Like if you can't learn to enjoy the process, then the finish doesn't really matter at the end of the day anyway. So it's definitely a very good kind of meditative thing to do if you enjoy the process of stuff. It really kind of helps ground you towards that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of translation between being an athlete, being able to focus and being disciplined, and the
Mhm.
business world, because you need those same skills in the business world, right? I mean, have you
Yeah,
seen that crossover between discipline and business?
100%. I mean, it's actually funny. I forget where. I think I must have heard it on another podcast, or I was listening to another guy talking. He was basically saying that they almost exclusively look to hire people who are either former athletes
Hmm.
or like have hardcore hobbies. Because it's like
Yeah,
if you do that for fun, how
right.
effective are you going to be at the thing that you're actually focused on for your
Hmm.
job? And so I think there is a direct correlation where if you enjoy doing hard things, chances are you just have a little bit more of an ability to enjoy the process, enjoy the suck,
Right.
and like just kind of get after it a little bit more. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'd say there's definitely a direct correlation. Doesn't mean you have to go do that stuff. It can even just be like if learning languages is your thing, just find something that is a little bit more challenging in
Mhm.
terms of a hobby. And if you can stick with it and learn to love it, I think there's a big correlation between success in those hobbies and success in the real world.
Yeah, I think you're right, especially because the business world is full of constantly solving problems that you've never solved before, and it's always
Mhm.
another challenge. So if you like challenging yourself, then you're going to enjoy, the business world. That's why it's not for everybody. Some people don't
Yeah,
want constant challenges.
exactly. Exactly.
Well, can you tell me about your portfolio? So you manage a portfolio for Dan? Is that what you're doing right now, or can you tell me about your work?
Yes, definitely. So my job currently right now is I'm the portfolio manager for Martell Ventures, which is Dan Martell's AI sort of like venture studio, more or less. So
Hmm.
essentially, kind of what we focus on is there's a whole world of AI, and it's moving at like such a crazy fast pace that it's kind of hard to wrap your head around sometimes just how quickly it's actually evolving. Like I was actually joking with a couple people in the office. I was getting mad at I think Claude because it was taking a little bit longer than I would have liked it to complete a task. And then I was like, hold up. It's doing like 10 hours worth of like my work in 3 minutes, and I'm mad because it's not done in 2 minutes. Like, let's
Right.
get a little bit of a reality check done here. So
Hmm.
but it's just moving at such a quick pace. And so kind of where we carve out our niche is we're not 100% like what they're doing kind of down in Silicon Valley, building these kind of frontier models are what they're called. So that's like the big LLM. So let's call it OpenAI,
Hmm.
Anthropic, Claude, Google, like all those companies that are building like very high tech, kind of blockbuster, A1 news updated technology.
Yeah.
We're less like that's all fantastic. We're super happy for them for building that, but where
Uh-huh.
we're really focused is on the application layers. So what
Right.
we focus on is how can you take what these big companies are creating and spending billions upon billions of dollars to create
Hmm.
and actually apply it to a real business problem use case. So
Right.
what we're focused on is how can we find the founders who are building tools and products that actually solve real world problems right now. So
Hmm.
then that way we can leverage the distribution and audience that Dan has in order to get those products in front of more founders so that they can start actually using AI in an effective way right now to
Hmm.
actually make their business better, as opposed to just hearing all these crazy updates that they don't understand what it actually means, then kind of having this like back of the brain thought of like, well, am I being left behind for not using it? Is it a fad? What is it? We're trying to like kind of carve through that noise and find all of these really good application based solutions that people can go use so that way they can actually take advantage of all the
Right.
amazing stuff being built.
Well, that's awesome. So I think that it is a big revolution and it's going to make some big waves and long-lasting impacts. I think probably more than the in the 90s when we had the
Mhm.
dot-com era bubble. Like that was a big revolution. So our audience here, they're very interested in dumpster
Yeah.
rentals and junk removal. They use software. There's a lot of competing softwares, and they're
Yeah.
starting to just get into the AI realm just a little bit. But I think they're all testing things out, and most of the stuff
Yeah.
doesn't work yet. So
Yeah.
they're probably going to do like route optimization, where trucks
Mhm.
will be going, customer order interface. That's what I kind of see as the first step for AI, at least in this industry.
Yeah.
But I don't know, does that sound like the way things will go first? Or do you have any thoughts on application for software in like a trucking industry?
Yeah. I mean, I think the route optimization is a huge one. Like I've seen a couple companies, we're actually evaluating a few that are kind of doing that. So once we become partners, I'll be happy to share. But I think there's a lot of ways that people can use AI that aren't necessarily like industry specific. So like a good example of like a couple tools that we kind of have in our portfolio right now. We have one tool called Precision as an
Yeah.
example that lets you tie in all the tools that you're currently using,
Hmm.
and it takes all like this messy data that you have and turns it into like one big beautiful scorecard that you can actually use to grow your business. So
Yeah.
instead of having to log into six different tools that
Hmm.
don't inherently speak together, Precision uses AI to basically tie everything together and give you clean data so you can make decisions. So
Yeah.
really easy way where like doesn't really matter what industry you're in. If you're
Hmm.
using then two pieces of software, which I'm sure almost pretty much every company on the planet is using
Everyone.
nowadays,
Yeah.
then that's a great way to just get a lot better
Hmm.
operational insight into what's going on
Hmm.
without a lot of lift. And then another really good one that I always kind of say is voice AI is kind of taking over right now, and like
Yeah.
it's kind of the it's kind of the cool kid on the block, more or less,
Hmm.
because it has so many applications. So, like, we have one company called Atlas that's in our portfolio. And what they do is kind of a few things, but one of the ones that they're getting the most success with is called speed to lead. So, whether you are looking at it from a support perspective or whether you're looking at it from a new client acquisition perspective,
Hmm.
what essentially you do with Atlas is you tie it in, and every customer that fills out a form to get in touch with you, or every customer that engages, whether you're running ads, whether you have leads just coming to your site organically, or whether you have people that just want to get in touch with you,
Hmm.
it will actually have a voice agent call every single person who requests anything about your business
Nice.
instantly. And
Wow.
so the crazy thing is, let's say you're trying to get more doors for your business, or you're trying to add more clients into your book.
Yeah.
And let's say you're running ads right now.
Hmm.
Or let's just say you've invested a lot of money into SEO and you have customers coming to your page all the time,
Hmm.
but you don't have salespeople ready to call them the second the form gets filled out.
Right.
What you can use Atlas for is it will actually sit there, and anytime somebody engages, let's say in a month you get 100 leads. If you get
Hmm.
100 leads that come through, you may only have 15 of them actually book in, because like 100 will fill out a form,
Right.
15 will convert, and maybe if you're lucky, 50 to 60% of them show up. So you're getting, let's call it, 8 actual qualified deals out of
Sure.
that 100 that came through.
Yep.
What Atlas does is it'll make sure that every single 100 of those leads actually gets contacted, and it can
Hmm.
run them through a whole onboarding process to figure out, are they a client that's worth dealing with? Do they have enough volume? Does the pricing work for them? Is it close enough in like a regional area that makes sense?
Yeah.
Can it be fit in? Like, it can do all the pre-qualification work without you ever actually needing to engage with that customer, and it can book them into your schedule to actually have a further follow-up discussion if needed.
Yeah.
So that way you're only actually speaking with potential customers who have the highest likelihood of becoming real customers. But more importantly, especially in like a home service or kind of like a service-based, local service-based business,
Yep.
usually, I forget where the stat was, but I think it was like 80% of the time, the business that a customer ends up going with is the one that picked up the phone.
That's
And
exactly right.
so if you're
Yep.
able to just pick up the phone every
Right.
time,
Yep.
regardless of if you're available or not, it increases the likelihood of you closing more business.
Hmm.
And so, like, there's a couple of really easy things like that that aren't even just specific to kind of like a route-based business, that are just, in my opinion, kind of like no-brainers to implement. And like, we're getting
Hmm.
all of our businesses are starting to use tools like this, and everybody that we come across, I'm just like, if you like getting more opportunity out of the activities you're already doing,
Hmm.
it's kind of like a no-brainer.
Yeah, for sure. And so to apply that right to what we do within the waste hauler side, if a client calls you, they're calling
Mhm.
because they already have a problem. They're not really hunting for a solution. Like they're
No.
not considering it. They want the solution right now. And so
Yeah,
if you don't answer that phone, if you call them back in like 30 minutes, they've already called somebody else. Like they
exactly.
called or they clicked on the website and the form was too hard to fill out, and so they abandoned it. And
Yeah,
then they found someone else's phone number and they called them. So if
yeah,
you don't react that second, you're not going to get that call. You're not going to get
yeah,
that work. And sometimes it'll be a customer that ends up doing years of business with you and hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, you never know when
yeah,
your next best customer is going to call you. So you always have
100%.
to answer that phone. So I didn't even think about how we can have robots call people back. So is
Yeah,
that's Atlas. So is that something
yeah.
you can actively promote that we can, share with our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I can get you the link after. I'll just drop it in the chat right now. But that's one. And for what it's worth, like,
Hmm.
we've evaluated a ton of these companies. This one, like, their voice, it sounds like you can almost not even tell that it's AI. Like, it sounds pretty much the same as a human,
Well,
which is kind of crazy.
well, that's a huge upgrade from outsourcing it to India or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is a viable solution, but it turns most people off when they hear a non-English accent. At
Yeah.
least in America. I don't know if that's probably true in Canada too.
I think it's any country. If you're not if you're even if you go overseas, if you have a voice agent that doesn't sound like the national dialect, I think you're going to
Hmm.
run into the same thing. So
Right.
I'm sure you wouldn't want my voice going on as the support line in India. that probably wouldn't that probably
Probably
wouldn't help
not.
you.
Although
Yeah.
there are some accents that sound, very intelligent, very good, like the English accent, the Australian accent.
Yeah.
Like they feel very, I don't know, very smart.
Safe and trustworthy. Yeah.
Yeah. There is another nuance to it, which is where I ran my dumpster business. The names didn't match what they read.
Mhm.
Like there's this
Right.
place called Corolla, but it's spelled
Yeah.
like Corolla. So if you say the word
Gosh.
Corolla, they know you're not from around there, and they just immediately are like, nope,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not local.
Yeah. Well,
But
and the funny thing is, like with AI, like you can train it to say it correct. You can train it to say things correctly, even with like
Mhm.
dialect, and it's getting smart enough to the point where if you say, "Hey, we live in this city," it'll actually go do research to figure out what is the pronunciation before you
Wow.
go back. So yeah, it's getting pretty wild, some of this stuff. And like there's other application based stuff, like talk about like online form fill outs. There's ways
Mhm.
where you can add chatbots onto a website. So instead of it being like a clunky form that someone fills out, it's literally
Mhm.
just a support agent that sits there and answers questions and gets someone progressed through while still capturing all of the information that you need to
Hmm.
gather. So it's a nicer experience
Yeah.
than dealing with just an online form. Uh, there's tons of stuff, tons of ways that you can use AI to kind of make everything a lot more streamlined within your business.
That's impressive. Yeah, I was just thinking of the back office, making sure
Mhm.
that when you get an order, it processes correctly and dispatches
Yeah,
correctly. Um, but yeah, everyone wants more customers, right? So
yeah,
it's a huge value add immediately.
yeah.
Well, I had some more questions about how you got into this world.
Mhm.
So, but before I do that, I like to know about what's going on right now.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
like this week, you probably have a lot going on. We all do, right? So,
yeah.
I'm curious, like, what if you had a good week and you won the week? What would that look
Mhm.
like if you had a really good week?
Yeah, it's like a typical week for myself is, I mean, I each week on average, I'll kind of speak with we get about like 100 submissions to work with us every single week with like different companies, and
Hmm.
it's a wide array of like quality for those businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But in a given week, we have like 100 companies that request to kind of work with us. I usually
Wow.
end up getting on the phone with about 10 companies a week,
Hmm.
and what a successful week looks like for myself is one to two of those companies end up being opportunities that we would like to explore further. So we'll go deeper down the diligence process with them, and then kind of like winning a monthly basis is we're very selective with who we work with at Martell Ventures. So if we're
Hmm.
doing like one deal a month, we're happy campers. So we want to find really cool people who are solving cool problems
Hmm.
and want to do it at the highest level possible. So
Hmm.
that's kind of what success looks like, is just finding those awesome companies that we can look to progress further with.
That makes sense. That's great. So, what does it take to be qualified? Like what hits your radar? Is it a certain size, profitability, probably more tech focused?
Yeah, so for us specifically with Martell Ventures, the biggest thing that we want to kind of see is kind of what I was mentioning before, like does the product actually solve a real tangible problem?
Right.
Because right now there's this whole new world where y- just because you can build something doesn't mean you should build something, and there's a lot of that out there where people are
Right.
going and building stuff just because
Hmm.
one, the difficulty curve of building software has become tremendously lowered with AI
Hmm.
coding agents.
Hmm.
So, like even myself, I'm able to go like I'm somewhat technical, but I would by no means call myself someone who's able to get a software tool to production.
Hmm.
But with AI, I can. And
Right.
so, like, really, what we look for when I'm evaluating companies is the most important thing is does this actually solve a real tangible problem right now? If it does, let's talk further.
Hmm.
That's kind of the biggest thing for us is just looking for real point solutions.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So, okay. I had a thought in there related to that, but I was so interested in what you were saying, I lost my thought. So it might come back to me. But
Oh,
that
okay.
really makes sense because the automation is great, but
Yeah.
if you automate something that is not really useful, then you just wasted your time, right?
Yeah.
There's
Exactly.
like layers before you automate, you have to do other stuff first, right?
Yeah.
So
100%.
so like make I think the first thing is just make it so it's a simple solution. Whatever you're doing is
Yeah.
simple. Hmm.
Exactly.
Well, great. So what inspired you to get into venture capitalism. Like this is not, it's not for the faint of heart. Like there,
Yeah.
you get people get burned out on it. I've seen investment bankers
Mhm.
and advisors that they look at lots of deals and they get fatigued pretty quick over like two
Yeah.
years they can get burned out. So what got you into it and how do you stay fresh?
Yeah, so what kind of got me into it's a bit of a long story, but I'll try and shrink it down. Basically, what had happened was about like 5 years ago, had a pretty successful uh, agency slash coaching business with an ex business partner.
Mm-hmm.
Royally went up in flames to the tune
Oh.
of basically, I go away on vacation, I come back, all the passwords to all of our tools are changed,
Oh wow.
and so is the password to the bank account. So that was fun. Had a
Well,
pretty big fall from that. And then what ended up happening is I just kind of went back to first principles and said, okay, what can I control? What do I know I can do? So I
yeah.
went back to just kind of doing a little bit of, for about a year, kind of some hired gun work, more or less, where I was just like, okay, let
Hmm.
me go find some clients, help do the things that I was doing before, but just lick my wounds a little bit, but get back into the ring.
Sure.
And one of the clients who I was working with at the time happened to be a grant writer.
Hmm.
And he was paying me a lot of money for leads, which at the time I was like, cool beans. Like, you're going to pay me how much to send you a contact? Like, done. I'll send you as many as I can. And then
Easy
lo and
work for you,
behold,
but very, very valuable, right?
exactly. And then lo and behold, he just started saying, like, dude, I can't take all the leads that you're sending me, slow it down. And I was like, well,
Hmm.
what's the problem? Like, I thought you said you wanted as many as possible. I sent you 10 this month, and now you're telling me it's too many.
Huh.
And what I found out very quickly was the big bottleneck that he had in his business was he could only write these grants so quickly. Like he could only maybe maximum do 10 grants a month. And
Hmm.
that was even like pushing it. And I was like, okay, well, how hard is it to write these grants? Turns out grants are pretty involved and they're not the easiest thing. And right around this time, this is right when AI kind of like ChatGPT was just starting to kind of come on the scene as like
Hmm.
a big thing that was like a new toy to play with.
Is
And
popular.
I
Yeah.
was and
Hmm.
I was talking with a couple of my friends who ended up becoming my business partners, and we were looking at it and we said, okay, well, these grant applications, they need to be unique to each business,
Hmm.
but plus or minus, they're about like 65-70% the same
Hmm.
overall in terms of like what needs to be put in there. So
Hmm.
AI definitely like this is like we basically came to the conclusion this is definitely a task that AI can solve. So
Hmm.
we ended up going down the pathway of essentially building an AI grant writing piece of software that would essentially take that would just what we were able to do is we would take a 1 hour call with a client and be able
Hmm.
to output like an 80-page grant application off that 1 hour conversation.
Wow.
And essentially like we sped up the time to get an application put together from like what was almost 2 months down to like a week and a half. And so pretty easy sell. Long and then what ended up happening from there is I've known Dan for the better part of like 4.5 years. And
Hmm.
so as we were growing, we kind of did a deal with Dan where we kind of brought him in on our cap table as an advisor. He
Hmm.
helped he helped us grow pretty quickly in a couple ways off of a couple connections and a few mentions to some of his audience. And
Uh-huh.
lo and behold, the business kind of started to take off. And then once both the Canadian and US government decided to shift over their controlling powers about a year and a half ago,
Hmm.
surprise, surprise, all the grant programs that we were selling decided to also no longer cease to be in existence. And we
Oh.
kind of very quickly just took a hard look and said, okay,
Hmm.
if we run the risk every 4 years, let's just say at a minimum,
Hmm.
everything that we're currently selling and working on we have to completely put on pause and wait for the next kind of the next inflow of them to come out. It's probably not a great business to be
Hmm.
in when you have zero control over your product and the person who
Right.
does control your product has zero incentive to work with you
Hmm.
about that. So
That's the
we just
government
kind
for
of
you.
yeah, we just kind of took a hard look at it. We said, you know what? It's
Hmm.
not going to be an easy decision. It's not going to be a fun one, but maybe it makes more sense to kind of go do other things and kind of
Hmm.
put our energy there. And right when that was kind of happening, Dan was looking to get Martell Ventures all built out. And he said, hey, I'm looking for people to come help. And the opportunity
Right.
presented itself. And here I am.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So you actually you check a lot of boxes for like that position. Like that first
Mhm.
one sounds like a big heartbreak. You know,
Yeah.
your partnership, your business essentially dying over very quickly. But
Yeah.
that lesson is, I'm sure you can reflect on that and say, hey, that was really painful, but it grew me as a
100%.
person, right? So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's really encouraging. I know it sounds bad, but if you don't go through those like big challenges, then you're really not ready for a lot of other challenges. And
Yeah,
then
you
you
kind of,
understand the AI side of things. So
yeah,
it positions you well to actually identify real solutions instead of just, I'm sure people try to um, say things that sound nice, but you can probably shoot holes in them if they're wrong.
yeah, 100%. And it's very much just being able to look at it and kind of take like a first principles approach and say, is what this person is actually building, is it well, because the other thing as well is like kind of in the previous in that AI grant writing software business, one of the things that was also kind of looming over us as a big core component of our product was we built it's still is beautiful today, but we had like 90 different prompts that were chained together to get the output the way we want
Hmm.
it to be.
Wow,
Well,
that's a
now
lot.
so like, but basically what we had done is we built like our own version of kind of like context, more or
Hmm.
less. So with AI, there's this big thing called context, where if
Hmm.
you're using ChatGPT or Claude
Hmm.
or Gemini, any of the big like kind of big name tools,
Yeah.
more context that you have, the better your output ends up being.
Hmm.
But when we were building our tool at the time, context wasn't really a thing. The systems would remember conversations from like 2, 3 messages ago.
Hmm.
But if you gave it a huge, say, call transcription, it would get lost after the first 2 paragraphs. And then you'd end up writing a grant about how you want to get a new irrigation system for your farm. And the end conclusion that it would come on to is adding a new bakery to your farm is a great way to increase business. And you're like, well, how the heck did we get here? And it's because
Wow.
it's
Yeah, right.
it would basically just drift like crazy. And you're like, okay, we need to figure out how to reel this in. So like now though, these tools do that automatically. But back then
Hmm.
we had to like build our whole backend system to like be context aware. So I mean, like another big thing that we really look for and evaluate and that I kind of scrutinize is, are the tools that people building features of a bigger system, or are they actual solutions that are going to be still beneficial 2 years from now? And that's a really hard
Right.
thing to kind of evaluate. But that's
Yeah.
kind of back to why we looked at the solution solving problems as opposed to the really cool tech solutions, because really cool tech solutions run the risk of being integrated into a larger tool,
Of
whereas a
course.
very specific solution
Hmm.
has less of a likelihood of that happening.
Yeah, I'm not envious of that problem in the software world at all because
Yeah.
I'm in the services world. The audience here, they're also in the services world, and you can copy each other, but you only have so much capacity because
Yeah.
human resources is and equipment are your limiting factors. But in
Yeah.
software, if you got a nice program and you see that the competitor program has is better, you can just steal their features, right? There's not really
Yeah.
copyright protection on features.
Not really, no. And especially there's not really much you can do either if one of the biggest billion-dollar funded players in the space wants to do it as well. You're kind of just
Right.
like, well, that sucks. So, and we've seen that a bunch now already, like where there'll be a new company that we're evaluating, and then 3 weeks later you look on Twitter and oh, okay, there's
Right.
they're they're done. So it's an interesting world right now, but that's
Yeah.
also what makes it really fun.
So we recently went to a conference for a dumpster rental software called Docket,
Mhm.
and they're one of the ones that specialize in dumpster rental. There's other
Yep.
ones like DRS, and there's also trash ones like Wham. But I see with the specializations, even if they could get crushed by other companies with features, having only what you need in a software seems to be like a really good way to position yourself in the market. Is that
Yeah.
is that is that one of the ways you see smaller companies competing with these behemoths?
Yeah, and it's an interesting concept, but it's how can you take what bigger players are doing
Hmm.
and that are doing maybe like an enterprise, like a full enterprise level, and
Hmm.
just bring out the core things that people like, but just bring it to a smaller or
Right.
not necessarily a smaller market segment, but just a smaller customer size market segment, and just say, hey, instead of paying $5,000 a month for this tool, we'll get
Hmm.
it over for like 500. And it's like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways where that one phrase from like Pablo Picasso, where it's like, good artists copy, great artists steal.
Yeah,
It's,
right.
uh, it's definitely a thing, especially in our world.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it because the more that gets stolen, the faster our capitalism goes. So,
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I might have already asked, this might have already come up in the last question, but on our business journey, we face some serious obstacles. And
Mhm.
so do you have an obstacle that really helped you on your journey, like that you had to overcome, and then it
Mhm.
shaped you as a person?
I'd probably say it was having kind of like really bad business fail, or like, it wasn't a failure. The business was doing tremendous. We were doing almost like 2 million a year, but
Mhm.
it was more of a business breakup, so to speak, and like a really hard one at that.
Mhm.
Probably that would be one of the biggest ones. I mean, there's a lot of lessons learned in there. I mean, we have a very loose, shaky partnership agreement. I also looked past a lot of red flags in the person who I was working with that were blatantly obvious in hindsight, but it's just kind of the mistake I made then is I was like, well, I don't want to rock the boat because things are going well, so I don't want to ruffle feathers
Yeah.
and kind of risk upsetting kind of this thing that we've got going right now. But in reality, it's like it's if you don't kind of bring those points to attention, if you don't address the actual problem or the elephant in the room, it
Hmm.
sets you up for failure further down the line.
Right.
And there's a lot of aspects within there that just helped give me the insight to know how to not make those mistakes going forward,
Hmm.
but also that just helped me become, I would say, a stronger person overall because getting having that happen where it was almost the hardest part was just having the thing that I'd been working on for the last 3 years no longer be a part of my life anymore, which
Mm.
and for not it being my decision, like that was the hardest part is just kind of having that almost identity crisis a bit, like what am I going to do now?
Right.
But being able to get through that, coming on the other side and figure out, okay, you know what?
Hmm.
My value as myself is not a direct byproduct of this business or this thing that I was doing. It's like my value is actually in other places and being able
Hmm.
to come to terms with that and realize that I'm more than just the thing that I'm working on
Hmm.
was a lesson that you can't really learn without going through it,
Yep.
as hard and annoying as that is. But now it's given me a lot more confidence going forward with basically anything that I look to go do. So yeah, definitely very hard, but thankful for it in retrospect.
Yeah. Well, I think as humans and especially as men, I know I think most men really whatever work we're doing, we feel like is part of us. Like it's so
Yeah,
integrated to our core. And when you take it to something that's really passionate and very entrepreneur related, like that is really part of you. It's part of your identity. And so when that ends, I've had the same thing when I've ended something like most recently with my dumpster business, selling it.
yeah,
It even though that was the right decision and it was very healthy for everybody, I still am
mm,
sad. And that was my choice. I'm still sad to not have that part of my life, but
yeah,
I knew it was the right thing to do. So it's hard to separate ourselves from our work and also still be passionate because there's like
yeah.
that if you separate yourself too much, then it kind of dies and then it's not alive. So I don't know if there's a healthy balance or you have to go through seasons of being obsessed with your work. Not sure how that works out.
I think you kind of have to be delusional about the thing that you're working on when you're in the middle of it, because if you're not, you're never going to get to the levels of success that you want to get.
Hmm.
But you always have to kind of, I think, ground yourself and go back to understanding that you are not the business and the business is not you.
Hmm.
You can be, it can be your whole life. And there's this one phrase I heard in an event I was at. I think Sal Frisilla said it. He's the CEO of First Form, which is a supplement business.
Okay.
He basically just said, be present where your feet are.
Hmm.
And it was just that one thing where it's like, when you're in business, all your attention goes there. You're not distracted. You're just in it. But when you're
Right.
elsewhere, like if you're at home or if you're doing something else, be fully present there. And
Hmm.
that can kind of, and like I've been really trying to implement that myself. And it really helps to just realign to be like, okay, cool. When I'm not working,
Hmm.
I can still be fully devoted to that, but I'm also like Cooper is also Cooper, and it just really helps kind of set the stage for so then that way you just get the most out of life and you feel the
Right.
most just
Yeah.
you just feel like you're living a more fulfilled life that way.
Well, if I can go back to the athlete comparison, like when you're running that race, when you're doing your triathlon or whatever event you're doing, you have to be 100% there because
Yeah,
your focus has to be complete. Otherwise, you're gonna quit on the race. Because I've been in that moment. I mean, the full Ironman goes more than 10 hours, but when I'm
yeah,
5 hours into a half Ironman, I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know why I'm doing this. Maybe I should stop.
yeah,
So you have to be focused, otherwise you will quit.
yeah, 100%. And you got to just be you got to be very attentive to where you are right there. And it's it's hard, but it's again, once you can kind of learn to start viewing life and start viewing your business in that respect, I think it just opens up a ton of doors for how to how to live a little bit more of a fully congruent life.
Yeah, I can think about, in the trucking world, we deal with equipment that's broken all the time. Like
Yeah.
equipment that's broken, employees that don't show up or that quit
Yeah.
like at noon and there's still hauls that have to get done. And those are the
Yeah.
moments you're like, is this really worth it? Do I really want
Yeah.
to do
Yeah. Yeah.
this? And you have to dig deep and have that grit. But then when you do that a bunch of times, it just becomes normal. Like, yep, this is what happens. Trucks break in the worst places possible. Employees quit at the worst time possible.
Yeah.
Just becomes part of your life.
Yeah. And again, if you enjoy the process and you like and you can fall in love with the just the
Hmm.
game, it
Yeah.
makes everything a lot better and easier. And it makes when you do end up getting to the finish line,
Hmm.
you don't have that you can actually enjoy and celebrate it as opposed to feeling like you just had a piece of yourself removed.
Right. It becomes part of the story, right? I mean, those become opportunities to tell stories.
Exactly.
So through my journey, my understanding and my belief about how business worked and how life works totally has changed in the last 5 years. It probably changes every couple of years, and I can't even remember what it was like to think differently. And so
Yeah.
it's hard for me to go back to the old mindset I had. And I bet if I talked to myself 5 years ago, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? You're
Yeah.
totally oblivious. So do you have any of that, like beliefs that you had at one point and then they shifted and you're like, wow, I can't believe I didn't think that way before.
Yeah, I think one of them, and that's just a byproduct of kind of the environment I've been in for the last year,
Hmm.
but is just think bigger right out of the gate.
Mm.
And so what I always used to do is I would kind of look at an opportunity and be like, okay, cool. Here's kind of what the level one of this looks like, and then here's the level two, and then I was always, but the problem with that is you lock yourself into these kind of glass ceilings really quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at something right from the get-go and you're like, hey, I think this can get to 50 million bucks, all of a sudden you start like it's going to take, regardless of whether you are aiming for like $1 million a year or $50 million a year, it's going to take the same amount of work no matter what happens. Like
Hmm.
you're going to put in the same amount of time, the same amount of energy. Just the only difference is you're going to be showing up. If you're aiming for 50 million, you're going to show up a lot different than if you're aiming for $1 million a year.
Right.
And so I think the big thing for myself, and again, just kind of being surrounded in an environment where
Hmm.
that's kind of the norm, is just be be very delusional about where you think the opportunity lies.
Mm.
And if you can pick that large goal, work towards it, even if you don't 100% hit it, you're
Mm.
probably going to end up further ahead than if you set a lower, more realistic goal for yourself initially. So
Hmm.
I always would just say is like whatever, obviously not everybody's going to go pick a goal to be the biggest, the best, and the number one.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt to dream a little bit bigger or set targets a little bit bigger than where you think it's going to be at. And so that's kind of one of the big
Mm.
beliefs that I have right now is stop looking at things from like what does the 0.1% version of this business look like and look like what could it actually become, and then
Yeah.
start approaching it and attacking it
Mm.
as if you're hitting that goal no matter what happens.
Well, that's a big mindset challenge for me. So I like that. Can we dive into that a little further?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so it sounds like you're saying like be overly optimistic or at least find where it could be an opportunity. So shoot
Yeah.
for the stars. And if you land on the moon, that's still great. Like if you're going for, and if you see an opportunity and you say, hey, it could be 50 million, but it turns out to be 10 million, that's still, that still could be good. So
Yep.
how do you not sound crazy? Because I say things that are big and people are just like, I don't want to talk to you. Like we're
Yeah.
not, you're not, you can't, we can't even have a conversation. Like
You know
how do you
what?
deal with that?
So I forget who said it. It might have actually been Dan, but he basically said like if people don't think you're crazy for setting big targets, then you're not setting them big enough anyways.
Hmm.
And like the goal of somebody who's the leader, who's in like the operational role, it's your job to get everybody on board to that mission. And I'll tell you what, most people want almost everybody. I don't care who they are. Everybody wants to win. Whether
Yeah.
you could be even the most like down in the dumps kind of person, you still want to win to a certain level. So
Right.
if you can showcase it like, hey, I'm winning, come along with me. Here's what we're winning towards. Even if they go, you're crazy.
Hmm.
There's a little inkling in the back of their head that goes, well, if he does do that, I kind of want to
I
attach
want to be
my nose
there.
to that
Right.
horse, basically.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
almost like the mindset shift needs to be, do people think I'm insane? And
Hmm.
if they do, cool, that's probably a signal that we're going in the right direction. And that's kind of the way that I would look at it. I forget who said it. I can actually see when I was listening to the podcast, but it was this phrase that was like, be absolutely delusional about what's possible in the future,
Hmm.
be realistic about the present, and be forgiving about the past. And
Hmm.
what it means is like, don't beat yourself up if you're not where you want to be right now, because there's no point in dwelling on stuff that's happened or stuff that hasn't happened. So give yourself a bit of grace for that. Learn from it, but
Yeah.
don't dwell.
Hmm.
Don't expect everything to happen immediately right now. So like if you're going to set a massive lofty goal, don't don't make it ridiculous or say, cool, we're going to be there in 6 months, because then you're just going to set everything up for failure. But at the same time, just start screaming about like, hey, this is
Hmm.
where we're going. This is what we're shooting towards. And there's a real thing where if you just put it out in the world, it's kind of funny what starts happening and kind of what opportunities come towards you if you just start calling your shot
Yeah.
and just continually beating that drum. And
Hmm.
also what it does is it makes everybody who's with you kind of start to show up a little bit different. I mean, my girlfriend, she has a jewelry business, and we just went through this exercise
Hmm.
for her. And because we were like, okay, well, where do you want this to be? And she's like, I want this to be $100 million a year business. I was like, all right, well, we got a lot of work to do to go get there. But
Yeah.
part of the problem was her staff were like, a lot of good things have been happening. Like she just got in a really big deal and promotional kind of thing with one of the largest influencers in Canada.
Hmm.
She just won like gold for an award locally.
Nice.
We just had like one of our biggest sales. She had just one of like her biggest sales months ever. And it was like everything was like good, good, good. So you could see the staff was kind of not like kind of taking a break, but they're like kind of
Th- They're
we're
coasting.
doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
starting to kind of coast a little bit, and then for us, it was like, okay, we're stoked that all this good stuff has happened, but let's also re-index and say, hey, the real goal that we want is up here. So actually, we're operating at level one on a game to 100. And instantly, it was like you kind of saw the shift in everyone's eyes when she kind of told that to them, and they were like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess we need to giddy up and get back on the horse, because we're not there. We're nowhere close to
Hmm.
there.
We're just getting
If that's
started,
where
right?
yeah, but
Yeah.
if that's where we're going, let's go." And it was like, let's pat ourselves on the back for what's happened so far, because we're not trying to take away from
Right.
the progress. But at the
Hmm.
same time, it's like, let's make sure we're all moving towards that. And yeah, I think that's just a big thing that like for everything that I'm looking at and for everything that I'm going to do going forward, it's kind of just that mantra. Be forgiving of the past, realistic about the present, and just delusional about the
Hmm.
future, and then tell everyone about what that delusion is, so then that way you can make
That might be one of the harder things. I could just imagine some companies that have they got like 50 dumpsters and they're like, all
yeah,
right, I want to have 1,000 dumpsters and just
yeah,
grow it exponentially. That does sound pretty crazy, but I guess it'll push away people that don't buy into your vision and it'll pull people
exactly.
towards you that do, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
100%.
that's really great to hear about you said it's your girlfriend. She's growing this jewelry business. Do you
Yeah.
is that something that you can plug? Is there an online store or something we can get some jewelry for our significant
Yeah,
others?
if you ever want to get some good jewelry, it's called her business is called Mogano, but the online store is shopmogano.com. I just
I,
sent that over to you so we can post it in the show
oh,
notes.
good. Shop Mogano. Mogano is Mogano.com. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll check that out. My wife loves jewelry, so
Yeah.
oh,
I find most girls do. So it's yeah.
pretty universal.
Yeah.
So in our business journey, we have a lot of customers that we come across, and there's customers that have rubbed me the wrong way, and there's also customers that have impressed me, and they've kind of changed my perspective. I can
Yep.
think about a time where I had to let all my customers know how we were changing our how we do business, and I knew I was going to have customers that were upset, but there were some customers that really they appreciated it. They're like, "Oh, thanks for the clarity. Now I know the guidelines, and
Mhm.
you got to run your business how you got to run your business." And it actually improved our relationship. But
Yep.
do you have any customers that have taught you a lesson that you've brought with you to this point?
Yeah, there's a few. There was one I remember going way back into the archives. There's one client who, I think, it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it just gave me, it was back when kind of like in that original business, the one that, I think it kind of had the bad breakup in, but there's one client that I knew that we were giving him great service and
Mhm.
that we were doing what we were saying we were going to do, and he just wasn't happy at all. So I remember we ended up forcing it and said, "Cool, I'm going to do it for you." We got him the results he was looking for, and he was still upset. And I was like, sometimes there just isn't a way to please some people. So I think one of the first lessons I had was kind of like almost a trust your gut kind of scenario. Like if someone is telling you who they are right
Mhm.
off the bat, they're
Yeah.
probably telling you who they are. And like I remember before we even closed this customer that I was just like, he's gonna be a pain in the butt. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't think we should do it, but we did it anyways. So like one lesson was if you're kind of getting those signals right away,
Mm-hmm.
just probably best not to go for it. And I mean, there's been scenarios like that when we're evaluating deals right now at Martell Ventures, where we've had some companies that have I've been in conversations with, and they just go back and forth a million times over like a tiny term detail point.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic people, great products, but it's like, hey, if this is how the relationship is going to start right now, where we can't even have a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of mutual trust to get to the next level, it's probably an indicator of what's going to happen going forward. And
Mm-hmm.
if this is how we're starting the relationship, how's it going to be 3 months in if there's a
Right.
kind of big decision or if there's a process that needs to be changed. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
probably say that's one of the biggest ones that I learned early on that I've definitely been applying more recently nowadays, which is take people kind of at face value a little bit. Obviously, there's circumstances are everything, but
Right.
in those scenarios where people are really going to try and if they're showing you they're going to be a headache, they might be a headache, and vice versa. Like if somebody comes in and they're just amazing to work with
Mm-hmm.
and there's that mutual respect and there's that mutual care, it's crazy what you can actually get done. Like I'd say a big one right now that I'm learning with some of our portfolio partners is the ones who tend to have the most success are the ones who there are the most open to receiving feedback.
Mm.
And
Yep.
it's like coachability is a real thing, and
Right.
if you're able to be coachable and if you're able to and if you're open to hearing feedback from other people, like
Mm-hmm.
it's a term that gets thrown around a lot. Like everybody's always open. Like everyone's like, "Oh, I love feedback. I love feedback." And then I'm like, "Do you though? Like when was the last time you asked for it?"
Mm-hmm.
And half the time, like nobody has a good answer on when they ask for feedback. And it's like, okay, well, how can you course correct if you're not constantly getting that information? So I'd say a big lesson I've learned is like from the people who I see that are succeeding the most with us are the ones that are open to receiving feedback and are requesting it
Mm-hmm.
and just working are very unattached to the fact that they think they need to be right. And it's like, hey, what's going to help serve the business the best and what's going to help serve me the best. And let's just cut out all the noise and let's get to it right away.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I've seen those red flags in a lot of my relationships. And sometimes I trust my gut on them. And sometimes a lot of times it depends on how hungry I am. Like, well, this is a red flag, but maybe I can put some parameters in place. But it doesn't
Yeah.
seem to matter. If you're dealing with someone that you're not a good fit for, like maybe you can't trust them for whatever reason, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what structure you put in, it's gonna fail at some point.
Yeah.
So you just have to
Yeah.
be okay with that too, like knowing the relationship's not going to be that long if you do go into it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow. Well, that's a good lesson. I think everyone can learn from that. And not just in business, you can learn like that's a good personal lesson too. Like, do I want to be friends with this person?
Yeah. Exactly. It's like it's it's funny how everyone's ego always gets in the way on it. But if I mean gut feel is a real thing sometimes and always best to listen to it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's also like the extension of that is how do you protect yourself from bad relationships or
Yeah.
how do you unravel a bad relationship once you get into it? So leave
Yeah.
yourself an out. I think Dan has made some really good expectation setters. He's like, "Hey, we're going to work together and these are my parameters," and just having high standards for yourself and
Yeah.
communicating that is really healthy.
Exactly.
Something I struggle with. But I don't know if you've conquered that one yet. Just setting boundaries for your relationships.
Uh, if maybe I'm not the best at vocalizing it all the time, but I definitely have an internal checklist of it. I mean, with all the deals we do with our portfolio partners,
Hmm.
we definitely have like a whole checklist that we run through, and we're like in our diligence process, we're like, hey, here's everything about us that you can expect. So if this doesn't sit well with you, let's
Right.
just get over it right now. So then that way it doesn't become a thing later. So
Hmm.
just being upfront, being transparent, all good practices that can kind of lead towards success.
Hmm. That also makes me think about how I might be willing to deal with a difficult personality. Like if someone's going to yell and scream at me and call me bad names and curse at me, it actually doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people in my life like that, like former bosses or former customers, maybe some current customers actually. And they
Yeah.
yell at me and it's fine, no big deal. It's their problem, not my problem. I'm not going to take it on.
Yeah.
But the challenge is if that same customer yells at my team, I might I might risk the relationship I have with my team member and they might quit. They're like, I can't, I know you can deal with this customer, but I can't. Or, you know, I might not be able to actually do the work when I delegate it to my team. So
Yeah.
in business, it goes to another level is can you work with our organization, not just me and my thick skin.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hmm. Well, what about making mistakes over and over again? So
Mhm.
I know a lot of truck drivers, a lot of business owners, a lot of waste haulers that seem to make the same mistakes over and over again, like maybe
Mhm.
discounting their prices or being wishy-washy about how they'll do business. Maybe they won't they'll go to wherever a customer wants them to go.
Yeah.
Do you have any mistakes you see entrepreneurs make over and over again, especially because you see so many of them, like every single
Yeah.
week you're talking to them?
There's two that I would say are kind of like the biggest ones, and these kind of like encompass the majority of like offshoot mistakes from there. But the
Hmm.
first one is just people don't actually attack problems or work with enough speed. So there's a lot of like we have a rule in at Martell Ventures where like anytime someone has a task, it's got to have like a date when it's going to be done. And usually someone will question and be like, okay, well, why does it need to be next? Like, why is it going to be next Tuesday? Can it get done sooner? And nine times out of 10, you can usually get the thing done quicker than you think you can get done.
Hmm.
And I think a big mistake that most founders make is they underestimate how long some things are going to take and they don't attack them fast enough with enough speed and with enough intensity.
Hmm.
And that goes for businesses across the board.
Yeah.
Like attack it, work fast. I mean, we work at a pretty blistering pace at Martell Ventures. I mean, I sometimes lose track of how quickly we're going into like, and what I mean by that is there was a conversation I was having with someone and the, we kind of like ended it. And then for whatever reason, I was thinking like, oh, when was I talking with that person again? And I was like, God, that must have been like a month ago. I looked up the email and it was only 11 days prior. And I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that feels like ancient times. So like, that's kind of the speed we're rolling at. But I think most founders or most business owners don't act like they think they might be working hard or they think they might be working fast.
Mhm.
They really aren't. And I think just picking up the intensity level is a really big one. And it's crazy how much more you can get done relative to your competitors if you're just willing to attack things a bit harder.
Yeah.
And then the second one is just overcomplicating stuff too quickly or just adding too many things into a business.
Hmm.
Um, simplicity scales is kind of like the biggest thing. And most of the times it's very easy to if something's not going 100% the way you want it to just change it and go do something else. But what happens is you lose all the compounding of that.
Hmm.
Or it's very easy to start adding, it's very easy to add things into a business. It's very hard to remove things from a
Right.
business. Like if you can cut something out and
Hmm.
your business stays the same or grows, that's actually more impressive than adding something into the mix to try and get it to grow more. And I think what most founders or business owners get wrong is they try to add stuff in when in reality you should be looking to just take stuff away for
Hmm.
growth. That's a very kind of hard thing to do because we always want to keep
Right.
doing new stuff and keeping the ball moving. But
Hmm.
yeah, trying to overcomplicate stuff is a big one that I see a lot of founders make the mistake of. Like whether it's a new offer that you're trying to launch because you think that's what customers want,
Hmm.
or whether it's trying to change up an entire product because you think that's what is needed. Nine times out of 10, it's not. You just have to do more of the things you're already doing good as
Hmm.
opposed to doing more things.
Yeah.
And if more people stuck on that mindset, I think they would get a lot further ahead. And then
Mm.
if you stack that with just working fast and going with speed and intensity, you'll outrun 90% of your competitors
Wow.
without even trying.
That's really good advice for any industry for probably forever. That's like timeless advice right there. So,
Yeah.
so if you start, so I think one of the reasons why it's tough for me especially is because if I understand what you're saying right, I have to start taking things out of my business to improve
Mhm.
it. And you don't really know what's going to happen when you take something out until you do it.
Yeah.
And at some point, you're going to take something out and it's going to break the business. And that's
Yeah.
when you're like, all right, that was something that I have to put back in. That's how you actually know if it's something that is part of the bit should be part of the business, right? Is
Yeah,
if it
exactly.
breaks.
Yeah. I mean, a good example, like a really easy one is people will bring in new offers all the time. And like, so
Hmm.
we'll use an example, like let's say if someone's doing just commercial dumpster pickup
Yeah.
and they're doing well and they're like, oh, we can grow by just adding residential now. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, maybe, but it's also a whole new business model. It's got a whole new set of things.
Hmm.
Why don't we just try and do more of what we're already doing well, which is commercial dumpster pickups, and
Right.
see what happens there
Hmm.
before we go add something else into the pile? Because every time you add one new thing in, it's going to add complexity that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Whereas let's just go dominate commercial. Let's
Hmm.
go triple that side of the business. Then let's go look at adding something new. And like, let's have the question to ask, like, how we figured out what the upper limit of
Yeah.
this opportunity is.
Right.
If you're confident you're at the upper limit, sure,
Mhm.
then let's go start looking elsewhere. But until you get there, and I think most people underestimate how big the upper limit in like any niche or vertical is. So that's what
Mhm.
I'd kind of say.
Yeah, well, if I look at the biggest competitors in the waste management space, you have Waste Management. They name their
Yeah.
company after the industry. And so
Yeah.
if you're not bigger than them, where they're a global organization at this point, then there's always more
There's always
upside.
more upside. Yeah.
Right. Which is
Exactly.
everyone. Everyone can get bigger.
Yeah.
I actually made that mistake. I was doing temporary roll off is specifically what I was doing. And I had the problem of summertime was actually my slow season.
Mm.
So I wanted to add a service line and I added trash trucks. So tractor trailers that haul trash between landfills and between the transfer station and the landfill.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, it's an easy ad. It's going to offset my slower time of the year. And that was like a huge mistake because it was a different kind of truck. I needed a different
Yeah.
truck. There was different regulations that I didn't know. My team didn't know them. I had to get different drivers with different licenses. They needed Class A instead of Class B.
Yeah.
And it was like it was really stressful. We had a lot of mistakes that happened through that. So
Yeah.
um, it distracted us from our main mission, which was the worst. So you're
Yeah.
dead on with that advice. So thanks, Cooper.
No worries.
We're coming to the end of our time here. So I've got one major question for you, which is
Yeah.
your future. So I'm always
Mhm.
interested in the future. I think anyone that's a visionary that they're actually dreaming of the future and trying to bring it to today.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to when my great grandkids are up in outer space and they're changing
Yeah.
the galaxy. We're not going to be there, I don't think. You and I probably aren't going to space, but
Yeah.
where is maybe a little less than great grandkids. Do you have something on your horizon? Like, where is your journey going to be taking you over the next year, 5 years? Where do you want to be down the road?
Yeah, so for myself, I mean, I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing right now. So for myself, the next 3 to 5 years, I think I'll still be in the same position that I'm at now. Just the impact and the reach is gonna
Hmm.
exponentially go up. Like we've got some insanely lofty goals here at Martell Ventures, so I want to kind of help realize all of those.
Hmm.
And then I think the chapter two after that is I think I'm always gonna have like the builder's itch. So kind of like for me, I want to take the next 3, 4, 5 years build out and get Martell Ventures to be kind of like the number one respected voice and player in kind of the AI venture space, and
Nice.
then take everything that I've kind of learned from doing all that. And I mean, if it makes sense, go out and run and kind of run the playbooks that we build out here to find success and just run it on myself for my own AI software business and rock and roll from there. I mean, the fun thing right now is especially with the world of AI, it is changing so quickly. So
Right.
it's hard projecting out past 3 months is really hard in the AI space. So like
Hmm.
this could all be completely like we could wake up a year from now and the world looks completely different. So I'm not 100% sure what that looks like, but all I know is I'm having a ton of fun where I'm at right now. Looking forward to keeping it growing and seeing just knowing that everything I'm kind of picking up and doing now, helping support all of our existing portfolio companies will just help support me in whatever my next act is. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm looking towards.
Can you combine your Iron Man passion for your AI passion? Is there like a crossover between those two things?
Actually, it's funny enough. I was literally using ChatGPT the other day to build me a marathon training plan because like I'm weakest in running by a long
Ah,
shot. So I
hmm,
was like, cool, okay, give me a plan. So from now until May of next year, because there's a race in Vancouver nearby where I live,
uh-huh,
I was like, from now till May, give me a run plan that gets me to a sub 3 hour marathon.
hmm,
So it put the whole thing together. I was like, give me all the nutrition, give me everything, like just build me this plan.
nice.
And it did. So I'm getting that kind of thrown in my calendar and
Hmm.
gonna do a whole kind of 5 month, 6 month training block just to get ready for that race there. And if I, because I know if I can run a sub 3 hour marathon, everything else in that race is going to be easy peasy. So using
Wow.
AI is used to build out training plans.
Wow.
That's the biggest way right now.
Well, you'll have to share that because my friends and I would love to break 3 hours. I have a couple friends that can get down to 250, but like
Yeah,
I'm not there. I would love to be there. So if you want to
yeah,
share that, I'm sure there's a business opportunity because a lot of people want
yeah.
to be that quick.
Definitely. Well, I'll give you like the 3 second version of how I did it. And also,
Mhm.
if anybody wants me to go like more deep in it, just shoot me a message on Instagram. I'll send you my Instagram, Michael.
Yeah,
And I can just DM me like AI and I'll kind of give you a little breakdown on it. But
that'd be
the
great.
biggest way that I do is I start with what's called like a master prompt on myself.
Mm,
So I just spent like 3 hours talking to AI, telling it everything about me. So it knows everything about myself, my role, my relationships, everything.
mm-hmm,
And then I feed that in and I say, hey, here's me.
mm-hmm,
Build me a training plan catered to myself, given all the details you know about my schedule,
hmm.
my sleep, my work, all of it. So that way I can still reach those goals in and around the existing schedule that I currently have right now.
Hmm.
And so there's a couple of easy ways where you can really tailor it for yourself. And yeah, happy to go into it in more detail. Just shoot me a message online.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So I'm gonna steal that idea, telling AI about
Yeah.
myself. Everyone should do that. That's good advice because it's moving so quick. So how can people connect with you? Like, what's the best way to connect with you online?
Yeah, kind of the easiest way is if you just shoot me a message on Instagram. So I'm just going to drop that in the chat there for you, or send me an email at cooper@danmartell.com. Those are kind of the two easiest, best ways to get a hold of me.
Perfect. And I see your Instagram handle looks like Coop underscore doggy dog. Is that
That's the
right?
one. Yep.
Yes. Awesome. Well, cool. All right, Cooper. Well, it's been great talking with you today. I'm really excited to see where your journey goes next. Yeah, I'll follow you. I'm currently following you on Instagram, so if you post
Awesome.
stuff there, I'll see it. And
Perfect.
I encourage everyone else to follow you as well because it sounds like you have a lot of fun stuff going on. You're at the
Mhm.
edge of this AI revolution, which is totally going to change our life.
Yeah, 100%. It's a fun time, and yeah, happy to kind of connect with anyone out there.
Sounds great. Thanks, Cooper. You have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Waste to Wealth. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you connect with us on social media and subscribe to the show wherever you consume podcasts. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review and tell a friend about the show. Until next time.